There we go. So now I'm just going to cook this guy like a chicken. What's cracking, people? Angelic Mayhem here, and welcome to the next video in my Path of Exile series. And in this video, we're going to be talking about elemental damage. Specifically, the newest patch, the Mega Patch that just came out, which is version 1.1.0, called the Sacrifice of the Vaal. This patch, at the very end of the patch notes, it has a specific section that talks about how the designers of the game are looking to beef up the casters, specifically the Witch, the Shadow, and the Templar, okay? So what I did was I wanted to just kind of illustrate some of the changes that they've made already and some of the limitations of the casting, okay? So what I did was I created a Templar. He's level 56, okay? I've been playing him since 2 days ago. So you figure maybe that's about like 30 hours or so, something like that. I got a really tight group. We are doing dock runs, and so I'm just going to take you in and show you what I have done with my character. So we're going to join our friends. Now, this is all about elemental damage, so that is ice and fire and electricity. Although this particular character doesn't have any electricity attached to him, so are there even people here? Oh, there are people here. There we go. So I've been focused entirely, mostly on ice, but also a little bit of fire, because every now and then you run into somebody who has ice resistance, and you're going to need something to be able to, come doggy, let me show you death. And you're going to need something in order to combat that. Alright. So the first thing that I have is my Ice Nova totem. Originally, Ice Nova was the way that I leveled up my character. I almost always use Ice Nova to level up in the early game, all the way up until usually level 30. Just because it's incredible. And you really don't have to upgrade Ice Nova or pick up any like ice nodes in the passive tree. You know, it scales very nicely up until about 30, and then at that point it falls off. Alright, so basically how I've been playing is that I run ahead, okay, I let my guys, they do most of the farming work, and I throw out totems, okay? I soften up all the guys who are, you know, like later on. I also usually, you know, like grab up any chests or things like that and, you know, pop them open so that we can see what's in them. And then if there's anything good, then whoever they're, because this is a permanent allocation. So anything that pops out of the chest, you know, if it's for some guy, then, you know, he can pick it up or whatever, decide what to do with it. All right. Now, let's say that we have a group that are ice resistant, okay? You're going to need something in order to deal with that. So in addition to ice resistance, what I like to do is I like to gather all the people around, right? And hopefully my tower will be able to freeze them. And then I throw out my incinerate, okay? And that will usually end everybody in the area. That 1-2 combo is a really great way to farm. It's also a really great way to... Uh-oh. A little bit of a lag there, sorry. It's a really great way to farm, and it's also a really great way just to get some good damage on, you know, creeps that might happen to be ice resistant. But for the most part, I would say, you know, 75 to 80% of all the creeps that you run into will be, you know, just completely wiped out by your Ice Nova. There we go. So again, I like to run around my tower. This is a spell totem, so you know, like just keeping them in the area will allow them to freeze. And then if I notice that they are ice resistant, then I will, you know, again throw out the incinerate. Now, let's say that we get someone who's like a, you know, like a rare boss or something like that who's in the area. You're going to need something other than AoE in order to attack him. So my solution for that is I have flames that come out of my hand. And then I also have, for the very rare occasion that I have a fire-resistant rare boss. Okay, wait a minute. Let me handle these guys first. I also have this cold snap right here. Oops. which actually is tied to a totem at the moment. Normally it isn't. I was noodling around with that, but it's so rare that I use it that, I don't really throw it out. Although as a totem, it's not so bad because if you can kite the boss around the totem, it will keep hitting him over and over again. And totems do a really good job. Like Cold Snap, it's a spell that has a timer attached to it, so when you cast it, you have to wait for it to regen, and then you can cast it again. Towers do a really good job of, like just kind of casting it over and over again, so you don't have to worry about timing. That's just one less thing that you have to throw on your mind. I always want to stay ahead so that, as soon as we figure out that the docks are spent, I'll type in clear in the chat box and then start a new instance. Which I believe, yes, this is now spent, so clear. TP scroll out. Waypoint, no. New docks up. This build works really incredible when you're by yourself, although the doggies just ate my tower, so I'll have to, there we go. Ah! I have boots that when I die and take damage, oh man, I am trapped now. When I take damage, I lose my super speed, but when I gain full health, then I go back to 35%, which is the reason why I'm able to run around so much. I know a lot of people out there, they like to say, oh, you have to have this rare piece of equipment, and oh, you have to have these special boots and all that other stuff. The most I can tell you is that I'm not that kind of person. I think that you should have a lot of flexibility with your build. And if you say things like you have to have this particular rare and you have to go out on a shop and you have to trade for it and all that stuff, that kind of takes some of the fun out of it. So just kind of do your best. And, the idea is that you want to have cold so that you can, like wipe out, anybody who isn't cold resistant. And then you want to have something else to cover you, for those times when you do run into somebody who's cold resistance. And whether that's lightning or fire, that's entirely up to you. I just find that the fire gems happen to be a little OP at the moment, so I prefer fire and ice to anything else. Now you'll notice I don't do much damage with my weapon. In fact, I don't do any damage with my weapon. If I were to try and lay into one of these guys, it would be a catastrophe. So that is not the case. And I do have freeze pulse, which is just, to open up boxes and things like that. It does do some good damage. Like, here, let me throw that out here. I mean, because I have ice jacked up on my passive tree, it does do good damage. Alright. There we go. So now I'm just going to cook this guy like a chicken. 3, 4, 5. There we go. Oh, give me those gloves. I don't really care about all those gems, but I figured I'd grab them. And then finally, I still have my Val Ice Nova. For those of you who remember my last video, I did a video entirely about Val Ice Nova. It is still very good, but sadly, it does 20% less damage than the regular Ice Nova, so it simply is not... Let me throw one of these out here and then cast it. You can see it's just not as good as it was earlier. But that's just a result of the fact that, it is... I mean, it does enough damage to, kind of really reduce things. And especially when combined with my totem. The nice thing about totems is that you can throw them down there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, that covers all of the damage that I'm doing with this particular build. I'm going to take you back, I'm going to show you my items and passive tree, and then I'm going to end the video. So let's do this. Aw! I don't have a TP scroll. Sad face. Here, give me that portal scroll. Never leave home without them. Doo-doo. Alright. So now, first up, items. Basically, what I wanted to do was I just wanted to get as many of the gems out there and leveling up as was possible. I have 2 copper Chris's. The idea there is that each of them has a spell damage buff. This one's 38%, and this one is 37%. So that really does a lot of good when we go into my Ice Nova. Oh, not that one, this one. It's $5.99 because it's attached to the totem. If I remove the totem, which it's this one right here, you can see that it jumps to $11.97. Now, the question that you might be asking is, well, you take such a heavy penalty to the Ice Nova. Why do you have it attached to, this spell totem? Well, the reason why is because, A, to cast it, it actually uses up a lot of mana. And you can see I only have 537 mana, and on my life, I only have 682. And the reason for that is because when you see my passive tree, you're going to find out that I have completely abandoned any life and mana nodes, okay, in order to max out my DPS. So while this is nice, especially at the beginning of the game, you can just run into the middle of a crowd, cast it, boom, they're all dead, and you move on to the next crowd. You can level up incredibly quickly. But when you get up here to into the 50s, like the 50s level, you're not going to be able to do this anymore, okay? So that's why, I throw it onto a spell totem, and I use some of my other ones in order to... Let me take this off of here while I'm thinking about it. I use some of my other magics in order to, do direct DPS damage. This is my freezing pulse. It also has knockback, so that's just in case somebody gets right in my face, I can kind of push them back. This is my flame blast. Right now I just have an increased area of effect attached to it. The reason why is because I want to increase the level of this area of effect so that I can then later on attach it to my Ice Nova when I find a 6 chain, somewhere in the course of, leveling up or whatever. And then for right now, these are just fine, but I am going to be looking out for some sort of other two-handed weapon setup where I can get more sockets on these items. So that's where I'm standing at the moment. And then finally, I'm just going to show you the passive tree. Here we go. So I started out down here with my Templar, okay? However, you can see that you can start off as a witch, and you can also start off as a shadow, okay? So it will be the same for either of them. And the reason why I wanted to do this video now as opposed to later was because I just wanted to show you what the base build is for the damage that you're going to be doing. And obviously, you can pick up life nodes and mana nodes as you see fit, which will make you a lot less squishy. Like right now, basically 3 or 4 hits and I'm a dead man. But, I took this all the way, I started here to pick up the mana regen here. I came here to pick up the spell damage nodes. And then I came here to pick up the spell damage that's here as well. All of this, I went down here for the elemental damage. Obviously, this makes my ice better. This is the ice run. It picks up freeze. There's also a spell power node here. I went up in this direction. This is Soul Siphon. This comes in really handy, basically, when you throw out your totem and it's hitting everybody at once. Eventually, 5, 5, and 15 mana gained on kill. So that's 25 mana that I get with each dead body. So if I kill a group of, 30, that's going to be, an instant refill for my mana pile. Okay, so each Ice Nova totem that I throw out is going to be, a huge blast of mana that will let me throw out the next ice totem. Over here, I had to pick up physique and dexterity in order to just be able to, use my equipment as I saw fit. This is a cold damage area. I just ran the middle because I wanted to get out here to this 18% cold damage. And because I'm not using a cold weapon, I didn't need to bother on this side. But I am going to come back to handle this chill at some point because I have noticed that I do end up frozen, and every now and then that usually ends up as a direct kill. So I want to limit my chill problems. This is more spell damage right here. There's also AoE, which could come in handy, but really, I have the AoE gems, and they work so much better. You know what I mean? So I instead of killing off 3 whole nodes, I just kind of skip past all this. There's also a possibility of coming up here for this mana. Actually, I would just go 1, 2, and then come down for it. And then over here, this is my next ring that I'm going to be picking up. This allows me to do more freeze duration, which will allow me to do a lot better farming and make it a lot easier for everybody who's with me to kind of get in there and get the kills. Over here, I'm right next to this Might and Magic and then this Agility. So that's just in case, depending upon the different items that I pick up. Down here, again, I went for cast speed. I am going to come back to pick up this spell Crit Chance because that comes in really handy, especially with Ice Nova. The crit on that will freeze everybody, so I'm definitely going to want that at some point. But again, I was going straight base damage. I picked up the cold over here. This 15% increased cold damage was really critical. Also, this elemental dominion was nice. 20% increased elemental damage, which also buffs all my fire powers. And then finally, this is where I started. I went this way, 40% for the mana regen. And then, I picked up all this elemental over here. Prestidigitation has the cast speed attached to it, which is nice. And then this 7% mana cost reduction was really important at the beginning, because when you're casting Ice Nova over and over again, it is going to suck up a lot of your mana. So I went immediately out here and picked that up, and then branched out for the rest of this. I came over here and picked up Elementalist first. I still have these 2 cold damages to go, but they're only 8%. So that is something that I'm going to do eventually, not right now. And that is about it. I can't think of any other major nodes here. I mean, some of this stuff, you can come down here and pick up Harrier, which has the cast speed buff. You can also pick up like this life and mana, these doubles out here, and then there's the mana regen. And anywhere where you see mana and life, like I did pick up this 1 life, there's another 12% here, and then there's life and mana 2020, which will then attach to all of the 12% to, increase that. And I think there's one more down here that I was interested in. Oh, here it is. Okay. So over here, these are crit strike chances, right? But then down here, you have the attack speed and the cast speed. And then you also have a movement speed node. So I was thinking about coming down here as well. But generally speaking, I mean, you can customize it from this point forward. You are so powerful at this point that really, with Ice Nova freezing people, you can just wipe out whole crowds. And you really don't need to worry about being super squishy at that point, because when everybody's frozen, nobody can hit you. And then, obviously at this point, I am going to need health big time if I'm going to survive Dominus and some of the other bigger stuff at the end here. But I think that's about it. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please click the like button, share it with your friends, or subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this in the future. I'm Angelic Mayhem, and I'll see you next time.